Hey, Superior Shave fans, not humans, how you doing today? It's Halloween, 10/31/2022. I'm dressed as a Jaguars fan. A customer wanted me, or asked me to hone for him this razor, which we'll open now. I do not believe I have honed this brand since I started shaping all of my stones. And the brand is Portland Razor Company, which is produced, as you might have guessed, in Portland, Oregon. Okay, this is the Siren tempered 01 steel, Portland Razor Company. Okay, you see there. So it's kind of it doesn't have much of a hollow grind. It almost goes like this. It has a little bit of this, and then it sort of like stops off. They don't have access in the United States, I think, to the double hollow grind machine, which allows you to not only have smaller wheels in the first place, because I think the smallest wheel on the belt system is 4 inches. With a double hollow grinding machine, the wheels are usually 3 inches and smaller. Sometimes they're 1.5 inches, and they can also vary how much the wheels are coming together. So as opposed to having one wheel like this, in which you have to put the spine and the edge on the wheel, you have 2 wheels, and you can vary the distance between the wheels, so they can be just touching a little bit with a specified amount of space between them. And that allows a more complex hollow grind. When you hone with a wheel-shaped hone, or just with a wheel obviously, if the diameter that's effective from the spine to the edge is longer than the diameter of the wheel, you are going to get a physical obstruction between the 2 points, and it will grind away some of the steel that's in there. So the first thing I wanted to do is go on the triangle calculator just to make sure. To be honest, the razor looks pretty geometrically healthy to me, just not the thinnest of grinds. Let me just take a quick look here at 8x. I don't see anything bad at all. There's a little bit of a foil in the middle there. There looks to be no chipping. As long as the effective angle of the triangle at the front of this thing is not too much like this, I think it'll work. I'm just gonna take the caliper that's only accurate to 0.1 mm and find the thickest part of the spine is 5.2, like 19.6. That sounds okay. Sounds a little low to be honest. Let's see here. 15.3 degrees. Great. A nice healthy razor. So I'm going to gently dull this to glass until it ignores my arm hair. First I'm going to sterilize it. And then I will take out the 1 meter diameter shaped hone. So this one is shaped to a meter diameter, and that one, when we go like this, is the one that has a very high risk of grinding away metal in between the spine and the cutting edge. But the customer and I have already brought this up, and he doesn't care. He just wants to shave with the thing. So will it shave better if we can get that edge concave? Yeah, I think so. We got nothing to lose. He already said he doesn't like the way it shaves. I don't know if that's because the steel is poorly tempered, etc. I don't know. I don't know enough about the razors. I think without the double hollow grinding machine, you're wasting your time. That's just my personal opinion, but everybody's entitled to their own. So we're going to start with this. I have to soak this one for 15 minutes, then we go over there. And then I'm going to dull it to glass, and I'm going to stay on this until I see the scratches from this overtaking the edge. It will probably not cut my arm hair at that point, because you're bringing in a coarse stone with 2 imaginary wheels coming together that are 6 foot diameter. And that intersection, because of the coarseness of the stone, is just making the edge a little bit too friable to cut your arm hair. If it was a perfectly flat hone with the same thing, it would cut your arm hair. But the goal for us is to, on step number 1, to thin the bevel so that when we fix it later, it is a very small area that we're fixing. And step number 2 will be this stone with the much longer diameter. So you can see there's barely any space there. And that one will go all the way to the edge, and it's very fine. This is a cuticule. At that point, it will certainly easily cut arm hair if the steel is good, which I assume it is. And then we will go to the Arkansas stone. That's my beloved 3 by 10 inch stone. And it's shaped as 8 meter diameter. This is the longest diameter of the 3. And and it will really burnish the edge. I would probably finish this with a pasted strop with some diamonds on it just because I feel like it's going to need that and it might not hold the edge otherwise. It has an interesting little divot there at the top that was put in by the grinders. Okay, it's got file jimps, not on the tang, in the hollow grind area. Behind the area of hollow grind there's some jimps, and then there's some jimps on the bottom. And the scale does not have a wedge, it's a spacer. Oh well, that's too bad. But okay, it doesn't look bad. Let's get her cleaned up first. Do you see those little bubbles coming out of there? We gotta stay doing this part. I don't want to spill that water. Until all the bubbles stop happening, and then this stone can be used. It takes about 20 minutes. I will cut some other footage or something. Okay, Superior Shave fans and other humans, the stone has been in the water for a sufficient amount of time. I have the surface cleaned. I'm using this rust eraser. Thank you, Mr. Schultz, for that fine recommendation. And we're just going to have to be on here for quite some time. Let me get my little bench cookies out. So this surface is quite convex down the 8-inch length, as you can see, and very slightly convex across the 3-inch width, which means that the contact patch that you have with the razor, because of the 20+ foot diameter going across the 3-inch surface, this is an ellipse, it's not a perfect cylinder, it's curved this way and this way. So your contact patch is much smaller than the 7 centimeters or so of the razor edge. And you have to learn to feel where it is doing its job. And you don't want to use too much pressure, because when you use too much pressure, you will make a sort of curved divot in the bevel. I know because I do it all the time by accident. Hey, nobody's perfect, right? But try to use the same amount of pressure the entire time. And we are just going to have to be on here adding water. And man, I hate how those bench cookies move. Man, I hate that. Anybody know of some bench cookies that are really heavy? I need the height off of this little silicone mat for my knuckles and so forth. And I wish the thing that I could rest the stone on was incredibly firm. I wonder if I could get like just a heavy natural rock and put a little piece of rubber on there and flatten out one surface of the rock. Actually, 2 surfaces. Anyway, I digress. We're going to have to stay on here for quite some time, and the main question I have is whether or not this is going to put new marks into the not particularly hollow ground area of the hollow grind of this Portland Siren razor. I can tell you with certainty that the width of the bevel, which was as received about 2/3 of 1 millimeter, and I would say when we're done we will exceed 0.8 of 1 millimeter, and I would not be surprised to see it go as high as 1.1 millimeters. The surface is getting dried out and it's getting swarf. It takes a lot longer to change shape than it does for it to attract swarf. So I have my reference plate, which is for sale on the SuperiorShave.com, and the reference plate used with sandpaper will re-true this surface, and in the meantime we can always take the rust eraser to get off swarf as it develops. I try to rotate the stone so that you tend to use the railing area of the stone more, at least I do. And so I try to flip the stone around every so often to try to keep the wear as even as possible so that I do not have to resurface the shape of this stone based on using one area too much, which would kind of be like the original Honda NSX had camber and toe settings for the tires, which focused all the traction energy on a small section of the tread patch, and they at some point had a class action lawsuit against them from owners of the NSX complaining how little mileage they were getting out of the tires. So after a couple of model years, they changed the specifications. And the funny thing is, because now supercars have gotten so much faster, people that have unlimited amount of money and buy those old 91 through 94 or whatever it was NSXs, they like having the tire specifications the original way because they don't care about the tire running cost and they like the extra traction that it makes you feel. Anyway, this part's awfully boring. This will take 15 or 20 minutes, I bet. The customer told me that the steel was claimed by Portland to be 62 Rockwell. I don't know if that's true, but it does feel awfully hard, I must admit that. So I could be here a while. 9:23, I've probably been doing it for 3 minutes. This is the worst part of the job of honing for hire. This is the job where you're being paid the least amount of money per unit of your time. Anyway, we'll see you guys in a little bit. Just a quick update for you, fine gentlemen watching. We are at plus 4 minutes since the last time. One of the things that I noticed is the razor is a little bit narrower at the first centimeter closest to the toe than it is in the center. And then over at the heel, it's also a little bit narrower. That's fine. They call that a smile, obviously. It's a very subtle smile and not like a Sheffield razor from the 1880s. But when you're honing it on the wheel shape, you need to minimize. You hear that different noise there? So the wheel is going to affect that narrow area awfully quick. And what I don't want to do is make the smile bigger. And I don't want to reduce the width of the razor in the middle just to make it so that the entire line is parallel to the spine and the same width as it is at the edges as it is in the middle. I think that is throwing away the best steel of the razor because I firmly believe the razor will be its thinnest and most flexible at the point which is furthest from the spine, that in this razor being toward the middle. So kudos to Portland Razor Company. It seems like it's a perfectly fine piece of razor to use, and I will just be very careful up there and not give it a lot of stone mileage. And I have to give more stone mileage to the center. You can see now I'm kind of hugging this railing here and focusing on the center of the razor to not to remove the width of the razor, but instead to approach the cutting edge from the rear side of the bevel. Now over here, when I do that, I am in front of the bevel with my wheel, which means I am reducing the width of the razor. Over here in the middle, you can hear from the sound, I'm touching the back side of the bevel because the wheel diameter versus the length of the razor is such to do that. I just took the stone to the 2-meter form to resurface its geometry. I've been doing this too long, man. I can sort of know where in the depth of the bevel, meaning in front of at the apex or toward the spine. I can tell from the sounds of the razor where it's touching, more than I can tell from my little record needle finger here. Now, when I calculated the bevel inclusive angle, it was just a hair above 15 degrees. I'm going to go on a sturdy limb here and tell you that I feel that when we get to the ending, having concaved the bevel so extensively, the razor would not be able to hold that angle at the tip However, that does not mean that adding concavity to the bevel is not an advantage for this man shaving. I am certain that it will help him shave, but what I will have to do at the end, I'm assuming we haven't gotten there yet, but I'm just making an educated guess, is that I will do all the steps that we talked about at the beginning with the concaving, and then I will take a flat stone, such as the Norton Ascent, and I will finish the razor on the flat stone and then top it off with the Genday Industries half a micron microfiber cloth bench stone thing. Thank you, that lovely customer who sends me all the neat trinkets. That's a really cool trinket, and I've come around on it and I see its value in the tool marketplace. But yes, we're going to put as much concavity in and then go backwards and thicken the tip of the razor so that it will have the best of both worlds. We're doing the balancing act of comfort from concavity and durability from razor thickening. We've been doing this for 9 minutes now.